So, Political Magazine has a little article talking about Representative Adam Kinzinger, a Republican, so-called Republican, from Illinois. It says here, why Representative Adam Kinzinger is raising holy hell over Russia. And it says here, for 70 years, a fundamental precept of the Republican Party has been a deep skepticism, if not outright hostility, toward Russia. I love the spin, and I love the framing here. It says, oh, Republicans have been hostile to Russia in the past, why not now? You want to know why they're not hostile like they've been for the past 70 years? You want to know why that is? Because for the past 70 years, back then, the Cold War was happening, and now it's not. Whoa. I know it's hard for you guys to grasp it. I know it's hard for Democrats to sort of grasp it, that, no, the Cold War is definitely over. But trust me, it is. Believe me, it really is. And I know it's hard for you establishment Republicans to grasp it as well, but trust me, the Cold War is definitely over. It's definitely stopped. Trust me. This is how they're gonna go ahead and frame the whole article right now. They're gonna say, "Oh man, the party has changed their tone so much, so radically." Yeah, you know why? Because they were not at war anymore. The Cold War is over. That's why the tone has changed over the past 70 years. I hate to tell you. What are you talking about? That's like saying, oh my god, can you believe that the president is being so openly warm with Germany, even though we were at war with Germany 100 years ago? The war's over. So what are you trying to say? See, in their mind, even though the Cold War ended, we're in like a second Cold War. That's like their new mindset. Like, oh yeah, no, the Cold War did end, but we're in a second Cold War now. Sorry, no, we're not. We're not in a new Cold War. Shut up. If we're gonna get into a new Cold War, it's gonna be your fault. First of all, it's gonna be your fault for talking about Russia and not shutting up about Russia 24/7 non-stop. So if we get into a second Cold War, it's gonna be your fault. So don't go ahead and say, "Oh my God, Russian aggression." It's gonna be your fault. It's gonna be your fault. You're gonna be the aggressors. So don't try and spin it like, "Oh my God, Russian aggression, Russian hacking." No, it's you, because Russian hacking, no proof. Russian interference, Russian meddling, no proof. So it's your fault for making up all these narratives. It's your fault. So if we get into Cold War II, it's your fault. But we're not right now, thank God. And if we get into it, it's going to be their fault. I mean, it's people like Adam Kinzinger that are going to bring us into Cold War II, whatever you want to call it. Because he's just so like, first of all, he's from Illinois, right? That should automatically set off some alarms, right? Because we have a Republican from a blue state. Usually, when you have a Republican from a blue state, they're pretty much just a Democrat. Like, honestly, pretty much just a Democrat. Even from purple states, like Florida, where you have, like, Marco Rubio, and for some reason Arizona, where you have John McCain. I mean, they're not Republicans. Like, they're the only ones. I mean, John McCain is, like, the only one pushing this whole Russia thing. I mean, at least he's the only one putting on a big show about it. I mean, every Republican senator is just so weak-willed, weak-minded. They're so weak that they just go along with Russia no matter what. They don't care. But John McCain is one of the few ones that actually put up a bit of a show, and they're really flashy about it. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna go after the president in this very strange way, where I really just, like, where he said that leadership was better under Obama than under Trump. And then he, like, took it back in, like, a really awkward way. Like, oh no, I was joking. Like, how is that a joke, though? Like, you literally just said, oh yeah, American leadership was better under Obama. Like, I guess it could be a joke, but because you're so old and out of touch, it just doesn't come off like that. Because you don't really know how to, like, connect and how to like speak naturally. Because look, here's the thing, John McCain comes from an era of politics where being tough on Russia was the big thing, and being scripted and artificial was the big thing as well. I mean, let's be honest. John McCain has not been able to adapt to the new age at all. He doesn't know how to like naturally speak. I mean, you saw it during the testimonies. He doesn't really know how to like talk in like a natural sort of normal way. Like that's the new thing now. People talk in like a natural way. People are sick of like the teleprompters and all the scripts and the speeches and all the the phony personas. And people are sick of Russia hawking, right? Whatever you want to call it, man. People are sick of it. It's over. Cold War's over. It's time to get over Russia. It's time to get over election hacking, which has been an investigation that's been going on for 2 years, and they haven't presented a shred of evidence. So at this point, the investigation is a sham. I'm not going to believe anything that comes out of it, because at this point, it's just an embarrassment to like the entire country. I mean, honestly, I feel really bad for the people in the intelligence community who are actually like hardworking and actually are trying to do good for the people and trying to keep the country safe and everything, that are trying to do their jobs. I feel bad for them because these Russia hawks are giving them a bad name. These Russia hawks are embarrassing the intelligence community. I mean, they really are. Because how are you gonna have an investigation into something so blatant and so it's like such a bold claim? Like, oh my god, they hacked the election, they hacked the local elections, they hacked the French election. Like, they did all these things. How is it that they can do these bold actions and you don't even have any sort of evidence? You didn't even know about it. See, like, they claim like, oh, we knew about it for years and years. Then how come you didn't talk about it until after the election? And then they say, oh, because we didn't want to get involved. We didn't want to interfere with the election by talking about it. But isn't the whole point, like, you're trying to defend the election? Like, surely you wouldn't care if you came off as partisan, if you were actually trying to defend, like, an election. But no, you waited until after, and then you said, oh my god, there was an attack on our election that we knew about for 2 years already. So you knew about it, but you just didn't do anything about it. So now you're saying that it's time to act after the fact that it happened, even though you knew about it for years before. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Their whole arguments are completely, there's no sense being made anywhere, to be honest with you. So let's get into like what he's actually doing, this guy. In the article, it says here, now, after biting their collective tongues during the opening months of Donald Trump's presidency, congressional Republicans face an actual legislative test of whether their loyalty to their leader outweighs their fealty to their philosophy. Their philosophy? The Republican philosophy of being hawkish on Russia. Is that the new thing now? Excuse me. Is that the new thing now, being hawkish on Russia? Is that like the Republican... I love how they say, oh, it's the Republican philosophy. Like, this is an issue to, like, everyone. Like if you went and voted and, like, gave an interview to, like, your average Joe, like, standard Republican voter, like, your base, the base and their voters, if you were to ask, like, your old neighbor Joe, who votes Republican, like, oh yeah, why do you vote Republican? What's he gonna say? Is he gonna say, oh yeah, because I'm really worried about Russia, that's why I vote Republican. Because if I don't vote Republican, then Russia's gonna take us over, they're gonna invade and hack our elections. Literally nobody is going to ever say that. Literally, I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. Literally, no one. No one is ever going to say, oh, I vote Republican because of Russia. Because I'm so worried about Russia. I think about it all the time. Nobody thinks about Russia all the time. No, except for, of course, establishment media people and politicians. They think about Russia all the time. It's the only thing they think about. The only thing. But normal people have actual things to think about, like, their job and their family and how they're going to afford food and healthcare and education. Think about those things. They don't have time to sit around thinking about Russia all day. Like, of course, like CNN does. And like all of these news organizations, like the New York Times and like Washington Post. By the way, did you see New York Times is making you pay to read their articles now online? So the New York Times is going bankrupt. Literally nobody's going to do that, by the way. I mean, Washington Post did it too. Washington Post and New York Times, they both make you pay now to read their articles online. Literally nobody is going to do that. Literally no one. You can get your news from so many sources. New York Times, you're not special. I'm not gonna pay to read your articles, okay? Sorry. Not gonna happen. Anyway. It says here about the Republicans that are opposing their leader and standing up for their philosophy, their so-called philosophy. It says here, leading the forces for the latter is Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who says in a new interview for the Global Politico that he is prepared to wage a rebellion and raise holy hell in the face of new efforts by the White House and its allies to water down a bill enshrining into law tough sanctions on Vladimir Putin's government. The measure, which passed overwhelmingly in the Senate, ran into trouble last week as Trump's allies raised procedural roadblocks and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson complained the bill unduly tied the administration's hands. Now, Tillerson's argument there just makes sense. It makes total sense because here's the thing. I mean, we're supposed to be we're trying to warm up, and we're trying to make friends with Russia, because why should we be enemies? There's no point. It's just a pointless thing that the establishment wants. Like, we're not gonna, like, no one wants war with Russia. It's not gonna, sorry, no one wants it. And Rex Tillerson is saying, look, if you do this, if you pass these sanctions, it's gonna be so hard for us to actually, make friends and improve relations like we should be doing, because it makes sense to improve relations, but for some reason the Senate doesn't want us to. They don't want us to. So let's see what Kinzinger actually has to say here. He says, there will be some holy hell from some of us that would be very upset about this, says Kinzinger, an up-and-coming member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who's emerged as a rare voice inside the GOP willing to publicly critique the president of his own party on foreign policy. I want to stop right there, because here's the thing. This is hilarious. A rare voice willing to critique the president on his foreign policy. You want to call this guy a rare voice? Guys, the Republican Party is so out of touch on foreign policy that Donald Trump comes in and is actually sensible in a lot of areas that they go after him ruthlessly. I hate this whole media narrative that, oh my god, here we have a rare voice talking, going against their own president, standing up to their president. Oh, how brave, how rebellious. As if it's not like what every single congressman Republican is doing. Literally all of them. They all have something to say, whether it be foreign policy, whether it be about his temperament and his tone and his Twitter and his Russia. They do that. Like, they're a bunch of crybabies, you know what I mean? They're like crybabies. They always go after him for these things, these like stupid things that don't even make a difference to like anybody. Like, it's not a rare voice. Shut up. A rare voice. A rare voice standing up to the president. He's not rare. You have John McCain and, Marco Rubio. I mean, sure, they work together sometimes. Marco Rubio and Donald Trump on the Cuba thing. But most of the time, Marco Rubio is just a total Russia hawk who just is so out of touch with his base. So out of touch. I mean, I can guarantee you, if voters knew last year that they were voting for people who were going to be doing nothing but pushing for, but going after Russia, spending all of their time doing that in Congress, none of them would have won elections. None of them. If Republicans campaigned on Russia last year, none of them would have won. But they didn't, though. They had to campaign on actual issues because they know that, people don't buy. no one buys this whole Russia thing except for like maybe half of Democrats. I mean, most of them are sensible enough to like know that yeah, no, Russia isn't our greatest enemy of all time. Sorry, I'm not buying it. So most of them know that, but about half of them don't because they believe, you know, mainstream media and all of their lies. So if they campaigned on that last year, they would have all lost in a landslide because no one's going to vote for that. No one's going to vote for that, and that's why I think that next year is going to be particularly scary because now we have Republicans in Congress who have pretty much nothing to be proud of. I mean, what have they done since they've been voted in? What have they done? Talk about Russia all the time? Make some healthcare bills that aren't even really that good? I mean, what have they done? So what are they going to campaign on? Are they going to go out there and say, "Oh, we've been so tough on Russia, haven't we? Vote for us." Literally, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna vote for you based on that. So they're so stupid. They're so stupid. They don't know how to do anything. They're so out of touch. They think this is like an issue that people actually care about. They think this is like a big issue. It's a big issue in your Washington bubble. It's not an issue to anybody else. So let me continue. It says here, a particularly ardent Russia hawk in a party that was until recently filled with them. It's still filled with them, at least in the establishment level. Kinzinger has taken to tweeting with the hashtag Russia is not our ally, in what seems to be a direct challenge to the Twitter-loving president. He says in the interview, "I think you will see a House that is very, very eager to make sure this thing passes." I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that the House will be very, very eager to make sure this passes. I can only hope that the president, you know, steps in and stops it at some point, because we can't have, we can't. This just you're putting your stupid like hawkishness in the way of like actual, you know, policies that make sense. Because making friends and improving relations with Russia just makes sense. That's just what we should do. But you're putting your like stupid establishment, like whatever the hell it is, whatever your thing with Russia is, you're putting that in the way. You're getting in the way of like actual policies that'll actually improve the situation. Because I don't even know what it is. I mean, either you're just weak, or you have some kind of agenda, you just really hate Russia for some reason, or most likely you're so old and out of touch that you think that the Cold War is still going on. That's how it seems with a lot of these people. So I really hope that something gives. And it says here, this is something that's very interesting to me. It's very interesting. It says, "It all reflects just how much the politics of Russia have changed in recent months. A dramatic shift such that far more Democrats than Republicans today call Russia the greatest danger to the U.S., the largest partisan gap ever recorded on this question by the Pew Research Center." That right there is where I want to end it, because that just goes to show how much of a mess this whole thing is, and how much Republicans in Congress are betraying their base by going after this whole Russia thing. It's the greatest partisan gap ever. I looked at the numbers. It was about 40% of Democrats and about 20% of Republicans. You're gonna go after Russia when only 20% of your base wants you to, and only 40% of the other side's base wants you to? No, so literally no one. Literally no one on either side. It's not even a majority on the Democrat side. Nobody wants these Russia sanctions. Nobody wants you to be hawkish on Russia. It's just you. So I'm so sick of these people in Congress, and Adam Kinzinger, and John McCain, and Marco Rubio, and Lindsey Graham. I hate them all. They're all so useless when it comes to actually, being in touch, when it comes to actually being smart, and when it comes to being loyal to their base, because their base doesn't want them to go after Russia, but they do it anyway because they're out of touch and they're stuck in like the 1980s, and I'm just sick of it.